And I held on to that. God is a God of love. I knew that. And I knew that He wasn't giving me this cancer. I knew that it was happening to me and He was allowing it, but it wasn't Him giving it to me. And so I knew there had to be a greater purpose.
Well, thank you for reaching out on the website and sharing a little bit of your story. I'm excited to hear all the details, and I'm just grateful for your faithfulness to share it with us.
Thank you.
All right, so I'll just give you the floor and be an active listener.
All right, my name is Rachel. I'm from Central Alberta, Canada. I am a widow of 4 years and a mom to 4 kids, 3 adults and 1 teenager. So you can imagine it's big hectic here sometimes. I work full time and am very active in my church. Actually, the church that I go to, I help plant with my husband. At a young age, I gave my life to Jesus. I remember about 11 or 12, I knelt at the bed and I knew that I needed to be saved. So I was raised in a Christian home to a single mom. I have 3 other siblings, so there's 4 of us. And yeah, I believe that this story God's given to me is one that I need to share. Otherwise, everything I've been through is for nothing. So my story pretty much starts when I'm 18. Life was pretty normal up until I turned 18. My parents divorced, but other than that, it was an average life, nothing out of the ordinary, nothing exceptional. I was active in youth group and church and high school things, looking forward to graduating and being kind of starting my own adult life, going to college, all of those things, dating, all the things that you're an 18-year-old girl want to do. I had one thing though, my knee started to kind of hurt. I had not been in any major sports, so it couldn't have been that, but it just was starting to ache and hurt, and took a couple of months and decided better go get it checked out. So I went to the doctor and she's like, "Oh no, you probably just sprained it. Nothing to worry about." So okay, gave it another week. And over that week, my knee really started to swell up. Ended up having what looked like a grapefruit size knee. It was really big. And I couldn't bend it anymore. And so we went back to the doctor, went actually to the emergency room, and they x-rayed it. And they said, "Oh, it looks like, maybe low bone density." No idea what that means to an 18-year-old girl. And my mom, like, okay, whatever. Next day, we get a phone call. "You need to go see your doctor." Went in to see my doctor. And he said, "You have either a severe bone infection or you have bone cancer. Either way, this is very serious." Wow, we were just absolutely blown away. Cancer is something old people get, or if you're a smoker, or um, just not an 18-year-old girl. So my mom and I, in the office right there and then, we prayed that God would be with us, whatever was going to come, whatever strength we needed to get through the next while, that He would be there. And we gave it over to Him. So I basically had to drop out of high school, grade 12, that day. The next 2 weeks, I spent doing MRI, CT scan, bone scan, any scan you can think of. And I had blood work done. And at the end of the 2 weeks, they decided to do a biopsy. And when they did the biopsy, it confirmed that I did indeed have osteogenic sarcoma, bone cancer in my knee, right. Well, actually, it was in my femur, right by my knee. And the tumor had overtaken my entire knee. And yeah, so I had cancer, which no one in my family has had cancer. There's no bone cancer. There's no any other cancer in my family. And this cancer is actually very rare to have as a woman, but also rare to have at the age of 18. Usually it's a boy that gets this cancer, and 13, 14, 15. So already it was very weird. yeah, so I had to start some treatments. So finished high school. That was my last day I went, and started a week later having chemo treatments. And we were told that 3 chemo treatments to kind of shrink the tumor, possible surgery, see how things are going after that, and then 3 more treatments following. So I had chemo. I had to go in every 3 weeks for 3 days straight, very aggressive chemo. I lost my hair after the second one, which you can imagine as an 18-year-old girl, very hard. It's part of your identity. And it was part of my identity. And now I was going to have no hair, very self-conscious. Having chemo is not helping your social life any. I was very alone. And as my mom was a single parent who now had to take care of me, would come to me to treatments, my 3 siblings who are younger were left on their own. And the church that we were part of just stepped in. They provided meals, finances, and, um, you know, driving my siblings to school. Um, and so it was very difficult for them as well, having all the attention put onto me. So I had chemo 3 times, and they said, "Well, we're gonna do an assessment, and your surgery will be in February." It's like, well, what? Why do I have to have surgery? I've already had chemo; it should be working. Not even in our mind did we think that that was actually part of the treatment. We were kind of in denial and have been told at the beginning that 3 chemo treatments, and then you have to have amputation, and then you have 3 more chemo treatments to get rid of any excess cells when the tumor's gone. I don't know if you know who Terry Fox is. Terry Fox is a Canadian who had this exact same cancer 10 years prior, and he had tried running across Canada and has raised millions of dollars since. He had the same cancer, and I knew that he had died from this cancer because it spread. The doctor said because of the money that he's raised, I was going to get a new chemo and my chances were better. But still, in the back of my mind, I knew he had died from this cancer. So they said, okay, we're going to have surgery for you in February, and we're going to amputate your leg.
Like at the knee, at the thigh, like
Above the knee. So my tumor was in my distal femur, and they have to amputate at least 6 inches above the tumor. So I was left with a very short amount of leg left. And above the knee is so much harder than below the knee. You don't have a knee to balance anymore. It's like losing like a quarter of yourself. So, 18-year-old girl, again, here I am like, what? I don't know who I am. I don't know who I'm going to be when I wake up from this surgery. I know I'm not going to be who I was. My life was shattered. I couldn't talk to the doctors. I had so much anxiety and fear. My mom had to be the liaison where the doctors would have to talk to me, but I psychologically I could not do it anymore. So my surgery was scheduled. I went in absolutely terrified, and was all prepped, ready to go, and they canceled my surgery. And it happened that an emergency had happened where a guy had tried to kill his girlfriend and tried to kill himself, and now he was in my OR room, and I was rescheduled for the next day. And as awful as that was, God worked a miracle because I was absolutely terrified of who I was going to be when I went for that surgery, of what was going to happen. But in that 1 day layover, I had to live with cancer that 1 more day. I had to have that tumor spread 1 more day. And my attitude changed, and I wanted to have that surgery. I want to get this cancer out of my body. And so I wasn't looking forward to it, but I was prepared. That one night, I was prepared. And we took the time to pray that no matter what happened and whoever I was when I came out of that surgery, that God would use me God would let me not be bitter. That was my prayer. I don't want to be bitter. I didn't want this cancer to beat me psychologically, socially. I didn't want this cancer to beat me. It was going to beat me physically. It was not going to beat me in those other ways. And so I had the surgery, and I woke up probably a week later. I don't really remember the whole week, um, but I didn't have my leg. And the first thing I remember is, I've got this. I've got this. God's got me, and I've got this. I'm not going to be bitter. I'm not going to be angry. I'm going to not let it beat me. And so I started um, getting up and doing all the things for rehab. And a month later, I was on my first prosthetic. And God just gave me this peace and joy. And I could joke. I could joke about my disability. I could laugh with the funny things because there was so many times I fell, or I could twist my leg all the way around because of the knee. God just gave me that joy in it. And I learned to walk again. And I had also had more chemo at this time. So I finished my third chemo, and I almost died. I had no immunity left, very aggressive chemo. I had multiple infections. And so I was in the hospital for over a month getting treatment for that. But I survived. God brought me through it. I survived. I had a Christian oncologist, a Christian nurse that always encouraged me. God gave me a nurse who came in one time. I had him, and it was shortly after my amputation, and I was still having chemo. And he said, I want you to know that my sister had the same cancer as you. She lost her leg. And even though she went all through what she went through, she still she had 4 kids. So there's hope. And I always had that in my mind that, you know what, this isn't going to beat me. I'm not going to let it stop me. Um, there's miracles that can happen because when you go through chemo, aggressive chemo like I had, you go through premenopause. So I was going through premenopause, and told me I wouldn't be able to have kids. So, yeah, learned to walk again. Finished high school. They let me graduate with my class after I was done chemo. Um, I was finished high school and learning to walk again with 2 canes. I was given a job at a senior's home doing physical therapy of all things. But the amazing thing was I went in there with 2 canes, and because the seniors' homes all have rails and wheelchairs, I learned to walk again with no canes by using the rails and pushing wheelchairs. And when I finished that job, I was able to walk independently with a bad limp, but I was able to walk independently. So that was amazing. About, I'd say 6 months, I think it is, after I finished my chemo, was getting back into normal life, seeing a future. I was having regular tests done because they know that this cancer always will migrate to your lungs. So they knew that if it was going to spread, it was going to come to my lungs. And they found cancer in my lungs. So 6 months later, I had cancer in my right lung, and I had to have it surgically removed. Thankfully, they were able to do microscopic surgery and take it out. And I didn't have to have chemo again, didn't have to have radiation. Surgery was enough. I'm like, okay, well, that's done. I'm good to go now. 6 months later, more cancers found again in the same lung. This time, though, they needed to do more aggressive surgery, and they had to go in through my lungs, or through my ribs, sorry, a thoracotomy. And um, so I had that done. Again, I didn't have to have chemo, didn't have to have radiation, which I was very thankful for. Just get the cancer out, take it out, whatever you got to do, get it out. So they did. And life goes on. And I'm enrolling in university, started my first year university to get my bachelor's degree. I'm just, yeah, life is normal. Moving on with it and stuff. And I'm in my first year university, and I have a test done, and they're like, you have cancer again. Third time, but this time it had spread to my other lung. And I'm like, Lord, what is going on? You healed me. Now I'm got it again in my lung. So again, a third time, and I had to have my a part of my lung removed. Uh, yeah, I, continue to pray. My family's praying that this is it, and it was. That was it. That was the last time I had cancer in my lungs, and I finished my degree. Always in the midst of all of this, as an 18-year-old, now I'm in my 20s. Um, you have this disability. I have scars on my body from treatments, and you're like, who on earth is ever going to want to marry me? I do not match up to the beauty of the world. I limp. I have scars. I do not have beauty in as according to this world. But I know in Jesus that I have value, and I know that my identity is in Him. And the right man came along. God brought the right man, and He loved me despite my disabilities and despite my scars. He loved me, and He saw them as part of me. And we got married in 2000. So I finished my degree, got married. Life is great. He knew we couldn't have kids, so we started the adoption process. In the middle of all that, because of all the chest X-rays I was having, I developed cancer in my thyroid. So not related to the first cancer, different cancer. They had to take my thyroid out. So here I am in premenopause. I have lost my thyroid, which is in charge of your hormones. No way I'm going to get pregnant. But God is who He is, and I find out I'm pregnant. Despite all of this, I'm having a baby. So, yeah, adoption process stopped, and we enjoyed pregnancy. And if you can believe, this is how God works. On my birthday, I gave birth to our daughter.
Wow.
And I knew it was a gift. She was early, but she was born on my birthday. So, like, what a gift.
How can
Yes.
I let me ask you a question? How do you just choose? How do you have a resilient faith through all that adversity and see God as good, even though time after time, it's like the enemy is trying to take you out?
I was given a verse from a friend. Jesus has plans. Uh, I have plans for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope in a future, Jeremiah 29, verse 11. And I held on to that. God is a God of love. I knew that. And I knew that He wasn't giving me this cancer. I knew that it was happening to me and He was allowing it, but it wasn't Him giving it to me. And so I knew there had to be a greater purpose. And I just kept that attitude. I'm like, God, this is like for a greater purpose. It was hard. It feels like you're being like lightning bolt, you are getting everything. But in many ways, I chose to be like, I am not gonna let this be me, God. I know you have greater plans. If I die, I know the greater plans are somewhere in this story. Your greatness is going to be shown, because that there's nothing I can do. The doctors can only do so much. Only you can use this story, and I guess that kind of was my motto, was to that God's got greater plans for me. He knows my life. He knows um where this is going to lead, um and I know where I'm going if I do die. No, I didn't want to, but I knew where I would go. um, I remember every time I laid on that operating table, I gave my life to Him, not knowing if I'd wake up, because you don't know. I don't know if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So you
Yeah,
had your daughter.
I had my daughter, and then we got pregnant again. In this pregnancy, I found out I had kidney failure because the chemo was so aggressive, it damaged my kidneys. And we didn't know it had damaged my kidneys until this pregnancy. And so we lost this pregnant, we had a miscarriage. And almost a year to the date of losing that baby, we were given a son. So we had our second baby, and then we had a third son, every healthy all the time. That third baby, we gave the middle name Jeremiah to because of that verse that God was still giving us hope in a future in a third baby. And because God can, we had a fourth. So just like that lady I had been told about, I had four children, and everyone healthy, despite all my medical complications and stuff. Babies were healthy and strong. Um, yeah, it was. Yeah, like doesn't matter. God. It was like He was giving me those years that that had been taken away. He was giving me back with my children. Um, and yeah, it's being one leg and having to be a mother was I could crutch and hold a baby at the same time. You learn how to do things, and the doctors were amazed because my kidneys actually functioned better when I was pregnant. Miracle. Um, so very blessed to have four kids.
What
Um,
did the doctors say about, like, I mean, you shouldn't be having kids? Are they confounded by that?
they were, yeah, no, they don't know. They just, my body was able to. So even though we were not thinking we were able to, we were, despite the hormones and everything, it worked. They don't know how it happened. And then four more times, or three more times. So yeah, yeah. There's other people that struggle, and it was like my husband and I couldn't even look at each other because God would bless us with a baby. So it was, yeah. No, we had planned for our life. No, we would have adopted, but God said no. I'm going to do it this way. So yeah, yeah. Miracle each one for sure. Um, so yeah, then we in the midst of all that, we were pastoring a church for a couple of years, and then my husband took a break and went 10 years into steel industry. And then we were called in 2012. We were called to um, plant a church where we live now. So we became church planters, us and our four kids, and started a church. And I became a pastor's wife, and I was blessed this whole time to be able to stay home with my kids, um, be a stay-home mom. And so we moved and started planting this church, and yeah, everything was good. We had our challenges like every family, nothing out of the ordinary. My health was great. Built a home together, and our family got involved in many things. Um, we had our oldest daughter was 18 now and going, ready to go into her future. And COVID hit. And so in 2020, we come to COVID, and um, we're not really segregated yet, but things are starting to, slow down and separate. And we had to um, kind of distance, but nothing was all the way shut yet. And we had gone on a camping trip, and we go camping, and my husband's not feeling very well. He's been healthy his whole life, never had a surgery, no major incidents. I think he broke his nose and broke his toe. That was the extent he had ever had. And we're going camping, and he's not feeling very good. So I'm like, well, maybe, you sound like you like have pneumonia or something. So he hung on, didn't want to go home. So we finished our camping trip. And then I said, okay, I think you need to go to the doctor. Went to the hospital, and they're like, oh, yeah, you've got some fluid on your lungs. Okay, no problem. We'll take it off. So they did some procedure where they took the fluid off his lungs, and life goes on, and we're um, yeah, doing our normal stuff. The kids are starting now to probably work. I think they're at home at that point from school. School closed, and I was starting to work from home. And it was a couple weeks later, and he had it again. Same problem, has having trouble breathing. So he went back to emergency, and they took some more fluid off his lungs. And they're like, something's going on. I think we should get you checked out. So he had a couple tests done. They're like, well, we look like there's a couple cysts on your lungs. I think we need to get a better look. We're going to do a biopsy. So, okay, he went and got a biopsy done, and they said, well, anything could range from some cysts in your lungs to, um, we don't know why, but some cysts in your lungs to like a cancer. It could be that. But he's never smoked his life, never been unhealthy, always ate well. We totally were, yeah, it's going to be some kind of cyst and they're just going to remove it. So we went to his appointment to find out what the biopsy said, and we're absolutely blown away because they say it's the worst of the worst case scenarios. You have cancer, but it's not just cancer, it's mesothelioma, which is cancer caused by asbestos um, exposure. And we're like, what the heck? He's never been near asbestos. Like, it was so bizarre. We couldn't believe it. Like, I'm the one who gets the cancer. I've always had the cancer. Why is he getting cancer? So, under some investigation that they did, they think he was exposed when he was 17 years old, when he helped his church renovate an old steel building, welding building, and they're renovating it into a church. And they think that could be where he got exposed. 17 years old, he's now 46. And he's got this cancer that you get when you're 70 or 80. Absolutely don't even have words to explain how bizarre this is. But we're like, nope, God's going to heal you. We believed God can heal you. So we had to sit our 4 kids down, tell them, um, your dad has cancer. It can be terminal, but we believe Jesus is going to heal him. So we didn't really ever talk about the terminal part. We just like, yeah, dad has cancer. It's not, there's no surgery that can be done. It was too far gone at this point that they couldn't have done surgery. But he's going to have chemo, and chemo is going to be good, and it's going to make him better. So he starts chemo, and this is in October of 2020. And by December of 2020, he's doing really good. Tumor is halfway gone, 50% better. He's feeling better. He's not on pain medication anymore. We're seeing great improvements, like just like he can go skating. So we book a Christmas trip. We go to Jasper with family, and he goes skating with the kids, and it's just a great trip. Like, he's doing so well. We're like, God is healing him. We can see it. And then it comes to January, a month later, he's in more pain. He's struggling more. I can see him declining a little bit. And the chemo stops working. So the doctor tells us the chemo's not working anymore, but we're going to put him on an experimental immunotherapy. So in the meantime, we've been going to prayer. We're going to prayer meetings. Um, God can heal. Totally believe God is going to heal him. And we have prayer meetings at our church, and we just see him declining. So we come to February, and I go to see my doctor, and my doctor's like, you need to make sure you take care of yourself. You're taking care of everybody else in your family. You're taking care of your husband and your kids. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself. I still had some health issues with the kidneys and stuff, so just want to make sure I take care of myself. And so that just kept running through my head. I need to make sure I take time for myself. So I'm in the shower one day, and I'm doing my monthly, how you do your breast exam, and I feel something. I'm like, oh no, it's going to be nothing. It's going to be nothing. There's no way. So kind of in denial, I left it for a bit, and I'm like, oh no, I'm going to go see my doctor because she said I should take care of myself. So I go in and have biopsy done, and it's stage 4 breast cancer. Like, how on earth, what is going on? Like, how can this be possible? I didn't tell my husband I was going. I didn't tell anybody that I was having this done because I didn't think it could. There's no way. No way. I've already had cancers. This isn't going to happen. He has cancer. We both can't have it at the same time. But stage 4 breast cancer. I tell my husband, and he's absolutely angry and upset and mad at God. How can this be? We have to sit down and tell our kids that, not only do you have one dad who's dying, who's terminal, but now your mom has stage 4 breast cancer and is sick as well. And you have the possibility of losing both your parents. Our kids, I can't even tell you what that does to a family. Like, we were angry, broken. My kids started having severe anxiety attacks. Uh, my youngest son had always had anxiety before, and his anxiety always had been, what if one of you dies? What if one of you dies? That was always his fear. And now we had to tell him that one of his parents is terminal and another one is sick with cancer too. Like, so people were telling us we were cursed. We had people coming and marching around our house praying, but we were not cursed. We're cursed like every man, everyone, every mankind, every human is cursed with sin. So we didn't believe we were cursed, especially. Um, we were in the ministry, but we're human and we have sin as well. There was nothing we had done, nothing, we are forgiven, and it wasn't that we had uh, confessed sin. It was just we were, for some reason, allowed to have this cancer. So my husband's starting immunotherapy. I'm starting chemotherapy, and he's declining more and more. The immunotherapy doesn't seem to be working. And I have to have a surgery. I have to have a mastectomy. And because of previous cancer history, they were very aggressive. So they took the entire breast as well as 28 lymph nodes. And so I had to do it all by myself because we're into COVID now. So I had to go into the hospital by myself. I had to have the surgery by myself and come home by myself. Yeah. So yeah, we're praying. We're angry. We don't understand how this is happening to us. But my husband and I we're praying together that we're going to be healed, and praying for our kids that they will see God's work in this and not go the other way. Um, and Yeah, so I'm continuing to have chemotherapy. I lose my hair again. This time I knew what to expect because I've done this before. So here I am losing my hair again. Um, More scars added to my body. I literally have a scar that goes from one side all the way to the other side because of all the surgeries and how they've connected together. And my husband is sick. So the immunotherapy stops working, and my husband is told there's nothing more we can do. This is it. You're going to need to start preparing yourself for palliative care, and I'm going for chemo at the same time. So we're praying for healing. Like, we know God can still heal, and he's not being healed. He's getting worse and worse. So we decided as a family we're going to go in July. We decided we're going to go for a family trip. Well, I'm still feeling good. I'm in between chemos. Let's go do something as a family. We took his family and we were all going to go to Canmore, have a good time together. So he had got the clearance from multiple doctor and nurses that he could go. He was clear to go. But by this point, he's been put on oxygen because he just is not being able to take in the oxygen with the tumors. And he's in a lot more pain. He's got a couple of infections, and we're just going to make the best of this trip. I said, if we just have to sit by the pool, that's what we're going to do. So we prepared to go, and the next morning, I get him up, and he's having a hard time getting up. He's very low in oxygen, so I'm trying to figure out his machines, get him a little bit higher oxygen, and he's very weak. And I'm like, I think you're dehydrated. We had been having a plus 40 degrees Celsius week, extremely hot for us. And I'm like, I think he's dehydrated. So we pack up all the stuff and we go to my brother-in-law's house to see if we can maybe get some fluids into him and just sit there for a while before we go on our trip and see if we can get him to perk up a bit and feel a little better, ready to travel. But he's not getting better. He's getting even worse. And we're like, well, that's weird. I'm pretty sure he's dehydrated. I was convinced that he was getting dehydrated. We had to call an ambulance. And I said, well, you go get some fluids. I'll come in an hour and then we can go on our trip. So we go to the hospital. I go to the hospital and I see him. And the first thing he says to me is, I wish I had more time. And I'm like, it hit me. This is it. Like, he's not coming out of this hospital. He's dying. He's actively dying. And so we called all the family, called the kids, told everybody, you need to get here. And it was hours before he couldn't talk anymore. So it went so fast. Called in the family. It's COVID. Couple of my husband's nightmares were, this mesothelioma is a very terrible death. It's one of the worst deaths because you choke and you can't breathe. That was his one death, was dying, not being able to breathe, like that terror. And another one was dying alone because in the ministry, he had heard of families that had to have their loved ones died on their own because you couldn't allow people into the hospital because of COVID. So we're at the hospital, it's COVID. The nurses don't care. They it's the protocols are enough that we're allowed to have multiple people into a room. So they gave us a special room. We all came in. We were all allowed to be there, all the extended family, and we were able to say our goodbyes. We had a worship time. We were able to talk to him a bit, and then the family left, and it was just me and him and his brother. And he was not in pain. He was, yeah. And I took a break, came back at 3 a.m, and at 6 o'clock he was gone. Like, it was so, and he did not die the way he was scared to. He passed away peacefully. And, I'm like, how, up until that very moment that he passed away, I believed he could have been healed. And I was like, why, God, why didn't you heal him from this cancer? Like, he served you faithfully as a pastor. We all served you in a church. Like, he's a good guy. He's a good man. He gave always of others, never wanted anything for himself. Why didn't you heal him? Where were you in all of this? Where were you? And so it was very tough. I went for chemotherapy. We had to delay his funeral for 2 weeks. When we did have his funeral, there was enough that COVID protocols were opened up enough that we could have a service where people could attend. So we were able to do that, which was really nice. And then I finished my last chemo. And a week later, we took a family trip. We took that trip that we were hoping to take with him, which never got to do. We took that later, and we were able to grieve as a family away from everything and heal up, because I was still going through treatments. I finished chemo, finished radiation, and I've been clear for 4 years now. I'm very blessed. And I look back, and again, the same prayer: please, Lord, don't let me become bitter. Use this for your glory, because why are we going through this if you cannot be um, shown in this story? And I look back and I know that Keith was healed. He was healed not the way I wanted him to be healed, but I know he went up and was in the arms of Jesus, and he's healed. So he didn't get healed the way I wanted, but he was healed. That was answered. That prayer was answered, even though um, I was holding on to physical healing here on earth. I look back and I can see, God answered so many prayers. He didn't die the way that someone would die with mesothelioma. choking on his air. We were able to have all the family get together. Um, there were so many ways that God provided during that time, that he was there. It felt like at the time maybe he wasn't, but I can see him working so many ways. And the friends and family that surrounded us, and we were provided for financially and emotionally, spiritually. So we had a pastor who we didn't know very well stayed every step of the way with us in that hospital room. And yeah, and I'm just thankful to be here today with, healthy and strong so far. And um, yeah, and going through all of this, the only thing that keeps on ringing through this whole story is that um, in my weakness, God has shown. I can't remember the verse offhand. I have it's on my phone, but it's 2 Corinthians. My grace is sufficient for thee, and in my uh, his strength will be shown in my weakness. And that's what I want. That's the only reason why I can go through something like this and um, have the attitude and joy that I have today. That we still grieve, for sure. It's only been 4 years. We still grieve. It was a huge loss. Not only did I lose my spouse, but I lost being a wife. I lost being a pastor's wife, that part of ministry. And it was, again, trying to find, who am I without all these things in my life. My kids are older now. They were 18 to 11 when they lost their dad, so still young and needing a dad. And I know they only had him for a short time, but they had a really good dad for that short time. There's many people out there who have dads their whole life and they're not good dads. They had a really great dad who loved them, but they only had him for a short time. I only had my husband for a short time, 20 years we were married. And I look back on our life and I see how God almost was preparing us for it. Every year we wanted to make sure we took our kids on a vacation somewhere. Even if we couldn't financially afford it, we made it work. And one of our favorite places to go was the Oregon coast and Mount St. Helens. We go there every couple of years. And I look back now and I'm like, I am so grateful that we did that. So grateful for those memories we made. And never take for granted the opportunities to take your family out and do those things or spend time with your family, because you don't know where your life is going to go and what twists and turns it holds. But I am so thankful that we did that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Amazing. How I'm part of this group of guys that are disabled in some way, and they call us normies. And one of the things that's consistent with these men is in their most of them had an accident later in life, and they talk about having kind of a choice where they see people that stay bitter and angry, but they chose almost like I don't really know how to describe it, but it's sort of like a victor versus a victim mentality, where it now becomes a challenge and they're not going to let this thing beat them. And they change their perspective on it. And you have that. Do you know how that happened? Is that just God's providence?
I remember the day when I found out I was going to lose my leg. I remember coming to the Lord and saying, Lord, I'm going to choose not to let this destroy me. I'm not going to let this make me bitter. And I've had to go do that over and over again. That I'm not going to let this cancer beat me. I'm not going to let the cancer that took my husband cause me to be bitter and angry. And I'm not going to let the getting breast cancer again with, cancer again, allow it to destroy my relationship with Jesus or destroy anything in my life. It can take me physically, but it's not going to make me a victim that way. And I remember choosing it and saying it, that I'm not going to let Satan win by trying to, yeah, trying to make me bitter or angry or, because he's not going to do that. I won't give him that power. And people say, "Oh, well, God gave that to you, or you're cursed." It's like, no, we're in a sinful world. We all get, and this is part of a corrupt creation, is that we are gonna get sick. And I know the Lord can stop it, and for some reason, it wasn't stopped for us, but it was time for Keith to go home. And whatever reason I had to have cancer at the same time, it may speak to somebody out there that God wants to reach, and that's what my hope is.
Your hope is in sharing the stories to give somebody else hope.
Yeah. 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 There's life beyond all of these things. There's life beyond what we experience here. There's hope. We know where we're going. I know where I'm going. I know where my hope lies, and I might get cancer again. I might not. But if I get cancer again, I know who I'm going to, and I'll see Keith again. Keith knew who he was going to. Um, yeah, there's hope. There's hope, and in all of that, there's a joy that you have. And in the midst of all of what we went through with Keith's passing, there was still joy. His funeral, his viewing, we all wore Edmonton Oiler hockey jerseys. It was his favorite team. We served jujubes and candies at his viewing because that's what he loved. And on the way to the funeral, we would find things that we could laugh about. And in the midst of my cancer, I joke about it all the time, having one boob. You don't know how many jokes you can do with one and one leg. I mean, half of me is missing. But it's only because of Jesus that I can joke about it, because I'm not going to take it serious, and I'm not going to let Satan win. Yeah.
Amazing. Well,
I don't know how to end it, but that's yeah.
You've been through a lot, Rachel.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any final thoughts? Anything you want to leave with?
Just Jeremiah 29, verse 11. Plans for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, to give you a hope and a future. Yeah.
A good word.